Okay, character design 1, we're going to show you how to color your character. Now, I have these 4 images here, and they seem very random, and that's because they are very random images I just stole off the internet, okay? So, before I show you how to color your image or give you options for how to color your image, I want to show you a thing that Illustrator can do that I probably should have shown you before, but I'm kind of a jerk face. So if I have this image here, and if I zoom in, you can see, this is raster. This is not vector. This is made up of pixels, like, photos. Um, whereas, again, vector is made up of points and lines, so you have these clear lines here, and it can be scaled to any size. This is a raster image. It is a low resolution raster, right? And it even has a watermark on it. See that watermark, the green thing with a circle that's right there? The person who created this put this watermark on it so that way people like me can't steal it, but I'm going to steal it anyway. So to do that, you would say, well, hey, you have to go with your pen tool and go and recreate all this stuff. Well, technically, you don't need to do that. I had you do it because it's good practice with a pen tool. And why did I have you do all that painstaking work with the pen tool? Because I'm a jerk face. I already said that. Okay. Plus, you just need to know how to use a pen tool. But if I zoom in here, I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see the low resolution raster. And if I click on this image and select it, and I go to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand, that's it. It's vector. Look at that. I can select all these things. I got all my points, just like you were creating, right? Well, that seems great. So all that you did was worth nothing because Illustrator does it for you. That's not necessarily true. Illustrator only does, image trace only works really well with a specific type of image. And this is that exact specific type of image. Notice that my image that I had before, now here's the green shape here should tell you that this is a raster version, right? I undid the image trace that I just did. So this is low res. Notice that all of the lines are very dark, right? Very bold, straight line, like, geometrically shaped. Very high contrast between the white and the black. So if I were to go to something like this, right, which is a drawing that you would do and bring it into Illustrator, if I select this drawing and I go to Object, Image Trace, Make and Expand, notice that it gets rid of all the little fine details, because again, it only works really well with the thick areas of black and then the contrasting white. All of those little fine lines in here get lost, the shading gets lost, because that's just not what Image Trace does. That's it. Now, take something that's much lower resolution, that's more in grays and has variations of gray in it, and if I were to image trace that, it gets rid of it almost entirely, right? So I hope you can see the difference between this image here and this image here, and when image trace is going to work really well for you and when it won't work well for you, if that's any indication. Plus, image trace also really doesn't do color. It does black and white. So notice that the green inside here completely was taken away because it just makes it black and white. Now, can you make it do color? Of course. And in that case, it actually works even worse. So if I were to take something like this to also show what it does, notice that like this typography is geometric. It has a straight line and a point right there. And it goes straight line point. There's straight lines here. The L, notice that it's a straight line. But when I image trace this, you can kind of see what it does. Like this L, it turns into whatever that is. Notice that that point, that straight point gets curved. All these points get curved. Actually does a pretty good job on the inside of the A. But image trace is okay for doing some things. Okay. This would be a good example. So, that's image tracing. Now, image trace, it makes a shape out of everything. So when I say that is, this background is now a shape. The space between his legs is a shape. Same thing with this in the arms. So you could, we'll talk about why that's great in a second. But you would need to get rid of those shapes. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to select this white, right? Notice I'm using my direct selection tool because the selection tool will select everything. Direct selection tool will select just individual shapes that you click on. I'm going to select just the white. And then I'm going to go to select same fill color. Now it's selecting everything that's white. And if I hit delete on my keyboard, it's all gone. There's nothing here. And if I were to move this in front of this gray background, you can see that there's no more white anywhere. And this is perfect. This is exactly what we want because we want to be able to color in each one of these spaces. Okay? Now, it made, let's see, I'm going to deselect that my dude, and then I'm going to go to make this red. And I'm going to make a red rectangle. But it's gray. I just chose red though. It's on red. I hit OK. It's gray. This is a thing that happens every once in a while in Illustrator, particularly after using image trace. So to get your color back is you need to come over here and notice that it's in grayscale. Just switch to RGB and that's it. It just gives you all your color back. That's a common issue and it's easily solved by just clicking on RGB right here in the colors window. If you don't see this colors tab, just go to window and go to color. It'll pull it up, hit the breadcrumbs, RGB. That's it. Okay. All right. So we're gonna make his hair a let's say like a teal or something, right? I'm gonna give you two ways of doing this. First, I'm gonna go into the layers and I'm gonna do this drop-down menu. And notice that I got my boy right here. Okay, there's his layer. If I drop this down, notice I have that layer. And if I open up these submenus, now I have each individual shape that makes up this character, right? And this is where I really want to be because I want to create a new layer for my color. And I'm going to drag it down beneath all of these layers. Okay, so when I paint, I'm painting behind the black and not in front of it, right? Because if I had my layer up here, it's going to be in front. Well, I don't want that. I want it to be behind, just like that. So you have a couple of options. One, you can use your paintbrush tool and you can change the stroke color to whatever color you want to use, right? So I'm going to paint in his hair. Now notice that my brush is too big. Well, to make your brush bigger or smaller, you use the bracket symbol on your keyboard. And that's going to be over at the far right. So look at the delete key on your keyboard. Go down one, right? And you have that kind of line and then the diagonal. And then go over to your left. Those are your two brackets. So I can make my brush bigger or I can make it smaller using those two symbols. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to paint in the hair. That looks good. Oh yeah, that looks amazing. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm just going to do some of it. Now, I'm not going to do it all in one brush. I'm just going to, let's see, just that. Feel incomplete if I don't. Yeah, cool. Now, notice that this is made up of lots of different shapes. Well, we don't want lots of different shapes in here. We want the blue to be one shape, okay? Well, that's a problem because let's say I wanted to later change my mind on coloring this to like, let's say I want to change it to green. Well, now I have to go in here and find all the different shapes that I made using my brush. Okay, so how to solve that? I'm going to turn off the eye to my layer of my boy, right? And so all that's left is just my blue. If I were to select this all, I can use that shape builder tool that we did before, right? Where we draw a line through things and it merges it together. Well, that doesn't really work. That only works with shapes. But I'm not making a shape, I'm making strokes, which is how a brush works in Illustrator. So I'm going to undo that. And the best way to do this is to just select all of the colors I just did and then go to Object, and then Rasterize. So I can take a thing from vector and make it raster, and that's kind of different, right? Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to take all these vector lines that I've made and rasterize it? And I'm going to hit OK, because now I can image trace it. Shoot. Now, I'm going to make this a little bit simpler here. I'm going to actually make, and this is just to make things simple, right? Because I told you that image trace doesn't do color really well. It can. We'll get into that later. So I'm going to make this a darker color before. Let's say, let's just do black. Let's make it black. Okay. So Object, rasterize. Cool. So now I have my shape, which then I can image trace. Okay. So now this is a vector shape. Let's select my white, and I'm going to go to select same fill color because I want to get rid of all the white. And now I have just this black, which I can make. I'm going to put back to my blue that I liked. Let's turn on RGB. Happens after we image trace sometimes. And now I have this shape back here, which is all one shape, which I did by just using my brush. So let's go through it one more time. So let's create another layer. Keep it clean. I'm on that layer. I'm going to paint my background in this blue. Okay, let's say I'm happy with that. I'm not, because of that little blue area right there. I'm not going to fix it. I'd want to just delete it and redo it with a smaller brush. But I have a couple of shapes back here to make up this blue. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my swatch right there. I'm going to make this black first, just to make it easy to image trace. Okay, so select it, Object, rasterize, OK, Object, image trace, make and expand. Use the direct selection tool to select the white background, select same fill color, delete, and now I can just make this, let's use the eyedropper tool, that same blue. And then now, because these are shapes and not lines, I can select them both and then use my shape builder tool to merge them into one full shape. And this is just a much cleaner way of coloring your image because I can just do it all in one. And then now, because I was unhappy with this line right here, I can actually come in here and then kind of quickly move this behind the black. I feel happy with that now. Oh no. You get it. You get it, right? So that's one way to color your image. Some people say like, well, why can't I just use like a paintbrush or a paint bucket tool, right? Here, let me show you. You can. Could I have just left that white that was there before and then just select them and color them? Yes, of course you could. And that's probably the simplest way to do it if you image trace it, right? And I'll expand upon that in a second. But I wanted to show you how to use the image trace and how to take a painting and then rasterize it and then image trace it. And there's a lot of steps in here that I want to show you how to do. But no, I can't really use a paint bucket tool in here because notice that there's nothing here. There's like literally if I take a paint bucket tool and I try to drop in here color, there's nothing there to actually color. There's something there, but there's nothing here, right? So it's just a difference, you know? The other way to do it is something you're more familiar with. And if I'm on a layer here, I could just use the pen tool and then make my shape. In fact, I'm actually going to lock all of these shapes so I don't actually touch them. And I could make shapes in here. This takes maybe a little bit longer, depending upon how you do it. You can make your curves if you feel more comfortable making curves. But I could, let's say I'm just going to do half the face. Make his face, let's say I want it to be like an orange color. Oh no. And same thing, I now have a shape. I can do that make another shape with a pen tool. Do, 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 do. And kind of build up the size of the face. Select them both. Use my shade builder tool. Merge them together. I can do it that way if you'd like to. So 2 different ways to color in your character. Okay? And then it's going to keep it nice and vector. It's going to look absolutely lovely. Now, the last thing, if you want to be a cheater, okay? After you've created your character, and I'm going to undo everything I've done. After you've created your character in vector, can you do this? I'll show you. Oh no, I can't do it. Oh no. Okay, let me go back to what I stole. Hold on. Let me see. Let's take this monkey. This monkey works great. Why aren't you letting me steal? Because it's not an image, it's a website. Oh, hold on. Do it. I think that I'm like legitimately showing you guys how to steal off of the internet, which is probably not what I should be doing, but that's okay. Oh, come on. Where are you at? Give me something. Cool. All right, so I got this girl. She works about the same way the boy does. Same contrast, same hot, bold colors, right? And I'm going to make her smaller. And let's say that your drawing looks like this, because you've already vectorized it. And I'm actually going to do, hold up, wait for it. Okay, so you have this. You have your character that you've already vectorized, right? Except for you don't have any of these white spaces, right? Select, same, fill color, delete. So it should look something like this. You have all the shapes that you've made, right? A tip, a trick, a way to quickly do this is to just, and I'm actually going to get rid of this down here because I stole, right? Oh, I'd have to fix that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to select everything. And I'm going to do the thing that you would think I shouldn't do. And I'm going to go back and rasterize the thing I just spent all that time vectorizing. But now that I have this very high contrast black and white image that is now raster, I can now image trace it. And why would I want to do that? Well, because now that it's vector, I now have in here the shapes that I showed you how to painstakingly make. Well, I can change these to the colors, and they're already built to the exact size I need. Let's make that RGB. And notice that this is a way easier way to color. And I'm just going to eyedropper tool that, select this skin. I'm going to make that a different color. Let's go back to my orange or yellow or whatever. Keep hitting cancel. Oh, RGB, each layer. Okay. So, lots of different ways to color in. This is, oh my God, I have to do this, guys. I'm not mature enough to just move on. Thank you. Okay, so this is a way to get those shapes in there, the direct selection tool, to be able to color them, or you can make them yourself. Lots of different ways that I just showed you how to color your character. Okay, that's it.